What's going on, you guys? It's the Watch List. It's Jayar Jackson. Glad to see you guys here. It's Thursday here. I'm glad you guys have joined me. Really fast off the top, every time, I know this is a little bit odd, but right off the top, I want to let you guys know, because every time you guys are lovely viewers of the show, notices I rock the hats and hoodies, hashtag hats and hoodies on the show every damn day. I got a new one. And I like these different ones that I get. I got a card, Happy Holidays. I got a playing card for it as well. This particular player is Alfredo Mateo Rodriguez for the Portland Baseball Pickles. It's the Pickles, bro. And it's from the Seaton family, AKA the Dragon. I appreciate it and I love you guys. I don't think this is a minor league baseball team, but it's the Portland Pickles are a collegiate wood bat league that plays at a small stadium here in Portland. They have a small town baseball field. I appreciate you guys at any point. I love the support, the community that's growing. Hats and hoodies, rock them. Let me know you guys got them on. Let's go ahead and get to the business of the day. As a matter of fact, the fun part of the day, you guys need your, I guess, bi-weekly dose of Jackson and Jackson in the morning. Jackson White joins me on the program today. As you guys know, he's a Rebel HQ contributor, dropping a little bit of knowledge every once in a while over there. What's going on, Jackson? How you feeling way out there on the East Coast where it's freezing?
Feeling good. I'm in here in the warm and in the heat, you know what I'm saying? So that's absolutely a blessing, something to count. And I got on this Knicks shirt. I'm not really a Knicks fan, but I need to do some laundry. I need to. You gonna take away my a little bit of trash I get to talk about? I was gonna wait on that. Yeah, but I came in on that 8 Mile Eminem type stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna lay it all out there, and then you can't even insult me. You can't hurt me. You know, sticks and stones type of deal. But I really like the Portland pickle hat though. I love that.
Kind of dope, right? It's different.
Yeah,
not many people be rocking that.
Yeah.
Portland. I gotta make my way up there and catch that. I always like minor league stuff. Oh, fine. We'll get to talking about what we're actually getting into today. But you know what? I always say we start by eating our vegetables, but this is a little bit more fun. Say broccoli with maybe some cheese sauce on top. Cheat a little bit. Let's go to this first story because conservatives are outraged, but should they be? Let's go.
With it, okay? But now they have to attack the song Natural Woman. But I'm told, folks, that trans women are women. Right? Think about that for a second, folks. Like someone who was a groundbreaker in music, probably one of her most known hits. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows the song. But you know what? Makes them feel a little uncomfortable, folks. So it's not about equality of existence. It's whatever they deem to be inappropriate is totally inappropriate. Doesn't matter the timing of it. Doesn't matter that it was 60 years ago. Doesn't matter that it seems to go against everything they've been telling us that trans women are women. Which one is it, folks? It's time to say enough is enough. I stand with Aretha Franklin. I stand with classic American legendary songs. We can't just erase history because a couple fringe elements in society want to do that to probably exert.
What you guys think about that last line Don Jr. just said? We can't erase history because a couple of fringe elements want to push back on it and all that. We got plenty of people trying to erase history. In fact, it's successfully been done in United States history. It's trying to be done again down in Florida with Ron DeSantis. That's all beside the point. Don Jr. is complaining about this tweet that went out about how Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin is a problem and these trans groups are going off. Here's that tweet. This 68 song Natural Woman perpetuates multiple harmful anti-trans stereotypes is what TCMA, the Transcultural Mindfulness Alliance, tweeted. There's no such thing as a quote natural woman. This song has helped inspire acts of harm against transgender women. TCMA is requesting it is removed from Spotify and Apple Music. Seems pretty ridiculous, doesn't it? Let's look at the account that tweeted that whole thing out. They've got the colors of the trans flag colors and everything on it. Founded in January of 2023, exclusively by trans individuals promoting cultural changes to ensure the inclusivity of trans individuals. If you think it's parody, it is. Wow. You see that last line there? Maybe Don Jr. didn't, because everyone's going off about this whole thing. He's not the only one though, so at least maybe it wasn't directly from that. It was New York Post as well. They wrote articles about it. Here's one of their headlines. Now Aretha Franklin's song Natural Woman is deemed offensive, all capitals, to trans women. And there's outrage as quote, activists demand songs removed. They were correct to put in activists in quotes because it was a parody. More though, The New York Post tweeted that out as well. Aretha Franklin's song "Natural Woman" blasted by transgender activists. More on the website, and of course, I think New York Post had a headline as well. So all over the place, these outlets that these folks will trust are doing this whole thing. There's one last piece here, because the person who tweeted that out with that parody account was a bit surprised that no one got the joke, is what he told iHeartRadio. So this is a parody account. The user who did not provide his or her real name told iHeartRadio on a direct message, "I never imagined anyone would take it seriously," and it dropped an LOL as well. The individual said that it was intended as a commentary on woke culture and media stupidity. They added, "Not one media outlet contacted me prior to reporting this stuff." More LOLs. And the word parody was subsequently, by the way, added to the account bio. So maybe it was fooling a little bit too much of these folks. Again, so here's the points here. They were trying to parody woke culture and media stupidity. I think they got the media stupidity part. Maybe the woke culture, if they want to tease and go off of the fact that people are trying to look out for other folks' rights and the way we go about things, that's cool. It's a parody, that's the whole point. The joke is to be excessive, to point out something that's happening in real life. But they think these excessive things are really happening because that's the way they go about scaring their viewers and their supporters into thinking these cartoonish things that they a lot of times push, which look like parody like this. I can see why they're confused, Jackson.
Well, not only does the account even say it's parody, but even if it wasn't, it had like 2,000 something followers. You know what I mean? Like before I deleted my social media, like I am not like, like some type of huge internet presence, but I had a bigger internet presence than that on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? So again, just to point out how much of a non-threat to anything that ever would have been, on top of the fact that it's clearly ridiculous. I mean, you can't erase a song from history, and most people who aren't like incredibly just drowning in politics and need to go outside and touch some grass. Unless you're one of those people, you're not waking up thinking like, this is what we need to do. We need to you know what I'm saying? So again, clearly parody. But Don Jr., he doesn't care about that. And neither do any of the other people whining and griping about it. But the important thing to point out is that, look at how effective it's been. It's clear that the perpetrators of the culture war rhetoric, that they don't actually care about these issues. But look how impactful it is, because you'll have regular people who are saying like, oh, well now they're trying to ban this, and they really believe it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's the idea. Look, when I first saw this, it wasn't even through Don Jr. or all them talking about, or any of these headlines from the New York Post and all them. It was on, I'm trying to remember which old school hip hop artist account this was on Instagram, because I follow the Snoop Dogs and all them, right? And Snoop Dogg generally tweets out like random trolly garbage stuff, and it's just funny many times and sometimes slightly offensive. But this particular artist does the same thing, and I wish I can remember which one it was. But I first saw that there. Comments like, oh, they've gone too far. I told you, look at these trans folks. I told you. And many of his followers are black folks. And I'm like, look at the division that's happening. Look at the point of this type of thing. Even if the people who first picked this up and reporting on Fox News or wherever hell this was reported, as they start taking this and running with it, the whole idea again is to cause these divisions amongst groups that are all being disenfranchised, who are all civil rights are being taken away from them slowly, while also their money is being snatched away and is being hoarded at the very most richest people. So we're being distracted by things like this and fighting over these types of things when they're not even real, bro. But your money is, and it's also not in your pockets. Your minimum wage is still nothing. Your healthcare is still nothing. Your right to vote is continuously being taken away. Your educational opportunities are all changing, and everything that's changing in front of you, that's screwing over your life, that's actually pissing you off, they're not talking about. And this is what's working. So good job, I guess. Don Jr. can hear about it, and he can be mocked, but he'll go, still got you.
Yeah, it's effective to a negative degree, but also too, like this is the type of stuff that can, it can get ahead of people and run away from them. Like political movements and corrupt situations, corrupt businesses, all types of situations. Like you can create a situation where it really can get out of control. And that's really what's happened. It's not really as if it's like, oh, we're gonna do, like their base, the Republican base is completely out of the GOP's control. That's really the problem.
And by the way, if you have such a big problem with these things, where's the solution for it then, right? People have a problem with the way the police treat folks, but there's a solution for it. That's what people are fighting over, and that's why they've not characterized folks as anti-police and all that stuff. Another side note. Since we're talking about people being fooled, it happened yet again. Let's go to this next story.
Finally, there is this. First it was M&M's, now it's root beer. Rudy, the great root bear. He serves as the mascot of A&W restaurants. He's now going to be wearing pants. Apparently, according to the company, Rudy's lack of pants was quite polarizing, they say. He's been on the job since 1963. The spokesbear, quote, is a 6-foot-tall bear wearing an orange sweater. We knew people would notice, even a mascot's lack of pants can be polarizing.
Oh my God.
First it was M&M's.
It's ridiculous.
Now a bear has to have.
Oh, what are you crying? I mean, what is the problem?
It's just the woke police cancel culture has gone ridiculous.
Pay attention. Fox News was talking about A&W posting this tweet about their spokesbear not wearing any pants since 1958, whenever the hell he showed up. And they're gonna put pants on him now because it's too offensive. Sounds pretty ridiculous, doesn't it? Sounds like they're making fun of folks who have a problem with cartoon spokespeople, mascots, and how they dress and how it's changing, and the fact that they still think this affects anyone. But they're mad about it because they need something to complain about. Well, come to find out, it was also a joke, pretty obvious one. But since parody looks just like reality, Fox News still thinks that's the situation. They're not the only ones. There's a couple headlines from there, from a couple of articles that was written as well. The polarizing bear mascot will now wear pants. They did mention the hilarious troll, but that was after they realized that it was a troll. This is the full message from A&W. Look at the beginning of this and see if it sounds familiar to something else. America, let's talk. That's the part you should pay attention to. Since 1963, Rudy the Great Root Bear has been our beloved spokesbear. We knew people would notice because he's literally a 6-foot-tall wearing an orange sweater, but now we get it. Even a mascot's lack of pants can be polarizing. It sounds ridiculous. They go on to talk about how they're gonna put pants on him now, and so no one else will be divided over it. Stupid, right? Let's look at this message from M&M's. America, let's talk. In the last year, we've made some changes in our beloved spokes candies. We weren't sure if anyone would even notice, and we definitely didn't think it would break the internet, but now we get it. Even a candy's shoes can be polarizing. This sounds really familiar to the A&W thing. In fact, this is the thing when M&M's folded to Tucker Carlson and the rest of the conservative pundits, they were talking about the changes in the M&M's. Not sexy enough, too sexy, too feminist, too without needing the peanut M&M to be by her side, all the stuff that they're complaining about from these chocolate effing candies. But they didn't see the similarities between these two messages and see the A&W is trolling them for mostly, I think, M&M's for folding to this stupid culture war that continues to get carried out in front of everyone's face. So A&W had to say this. Is now a good time to mention that this is a joke they had to tweet out? And as we see the parallels of Fox News's Twitter mentions, Rudy the Great Root Bear has been the company's mascot since '63. And they said it's the latest company bowing to woke. The latest company that's bowing to sleep is M&M's for bowing to Tucker Carlson and the rest of these folks that were complaining about candies, bro. There's more though, because after they figured this whole thing out, Fox News then modified one of those headlines and said A&W Restaurants puts pants on the quote polarizing mascot bear Rudy in a joke announcement. Who says these things are polarizing again? So if you put it in quotes, you should say polarizing according to Fox News. This is part of the problem that's going on here. And we know what happened to M&M's. They're gonna have Maya Rudolph come in and be the spokesperson now. And then everybody's gonna act like this wasn't a big deal that was surrounded by some kind of campaign politics after the campaigns are over. So you gonna stop going to A&W, Jackson?
I mean, you know, the thing is too, and you pointed it out, you know, like that they need something to complain about, but like it's none of these things would even be on anyone's radar if they weren't complaining about them. You know, it's like y'all micro, you know, you have basically a team of people who scan every micro page in every state to find some tiny example. Or like I remember several years ago, there was some super magnified focus on some family who was going to extremes with pronoun usage with their kids, and they were calling them like babies and stuff. And they were like making it sound like, well, this is what people are just doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and clearly, like, that's not like people aren't doing that at mass. So again, it's like, how did you even find this little story? And then you highlighted it. It's so ridiculous, and it also shows just how scared they are of life in general.
Yeah, and
they
again,
always think something's coming. You know,
you have to think, what's the end game? What are you doing this for? What are you trying to accomplish by being upset that if A&W put pants on the damn bear, they're bowing to you? I would think. I'm almost confused as to which side it'll be on, because the bottom line is, nobody, no matter if you're conservative or lib or progressive or whatever, should give a damn what these cartoon spokespeople are wearing or doing, unless they're saying something anti-Semitic or racist.
It's like, well, they're like the red pill, like manosphere community, or like men who hate women. It's like, no matter what a woman does, she's she's a prostitute. I'll say that. I don't know if I can say any other slur on here, but like, it's like, she sleeps with me, she's a prostitute. If she doesn't, well, she's really one then. You know what I'm saying? And then if she don't give it up to you, that's really when she's low down. So it's kind of like that. It's like you're screwed whatever you do.
Yeah, because the whole point is to make sure that they're the ones that are on top of this whole thing, and they're the ones who get it. But again, why? And think about, as you're distracted by it, what are you not thinking about? What is it they're doing that you're not paying attention to that's happening on C-SPAN, in congressional hearings, or in the Senate Judiciary committees, or whatever hell they're talking about that's actually affecting your life, that's keeping you from being happy and has you complaining about spokes candies? God, it's so ridiculous. Let's take this one straight for you guys. A couple of your comments about these first couple of stories, and if you guys were tricked by these spokespeople and all that. And also back to more serious stuff, because as we're seeing things going down as far as women's rights being taken away, as far as their reproductive rights, there's another example. It's pretty egregious, where a woman's going through miscarriage and they're too afraid to do anything for her because her life may or may not be in danger, but who cares? We'll do that story in a few more when we come back.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? The white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it, though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
That's right, we're back. Sure thing. Let's read a few comments, you guys. How about that? 2 IT members, Pharaoh Blue Blazer Dragon, 2 IT member, thank you very much, says, who knew that the Spencer Davis group was so woke? I'm a man that came out in the early 60s, or does that make them anti-woke? I'm not sure the Spencer Davis group is. Am I missing? Is that the restaurant folks? Who knew they were woke? But your point taken. Ian also, TYT member, says cocaine is a hell of a drug. I believe he's talking about Don Jr. Who else could he be talking about? Maybe those spokes candies. Eric, the Youper Dragon, says, I was gonna say, Jackson, you got your laundry done, but just lead with it. Why don't you? Man, I guess he saw right through your facade, bro. Wait.
Oh, what you mean? I didn't do my laundry. I did it last week. I need to do it this week.
I've been notified that the Spencer Davis group is a band, and apparently I should know more about these things, and I don't. My bad. Next from Twitch, love you guys on Twitch. Yeetwood Max says, I miss Jackson's random food tweets and trolling. Yeah, bro. You got people that was looking for you, man.
Well, I just figured at some point, I just Twitter's. One, I really don't like Elon Musk that much, and I'm always talking trash about him. And like also too, like my interaction with people like was legitimately worse. Like in terms of what I would see versus what I wouldn't see. It just, and then too, like I just figured, like I don't know, like I'll just stick to visual platforms.
Your quality of life was lowered once you're
slightly. And two, Twitter's just not the best place to discuss much of anything.
Lastly on YouTube, Roller Dragon says, oh geez, this crackhead. I think he's talking about Don Jr. too. Let's talk about more things as we go into it. Women's rights continue to be taken away. In this particular instance, how disgusting it was, this woman was going through a life-altering experience with a pregnancy. Let's go here.
I'll probably delete this later, but I've been actively miscarrying since the 8th. I have gone to a doctor, and this is my second visit to the ER. If you're wondering why women's rights matter, I'm just gonna fucking bleed out on this table before somebody comes and actually helps me. This is my life. Nobody actually is coming down. They're always gonna send me home.
If you're in charge of laws that are being made that forces a human to be in this position, where they're literally considering whether or not they're dying in the moment when the camera's on them, and you don't think, I should do something about not putting people in these positions. If you don't think like that, you're just a piece of garbage. In fact, you're in your position to destroy people's lives. That's what folks in Idaho are doing, because these very restrictive abortion rules have put this woman through a 19-day long miscarriage. 19 days. She talked about potentially bleeding out. Hey, folks who made this law, do you consider that? Did you put yourself in that position and think about how horrific that is? As she posted about this, it gained some traction. Folks even said, hey, why don't you go across the border? She's in Idaho, why don't you go over into Oregon and maybe get some help? But she did point out why that's not possible. Watch this.
So the sister place in the most eastern part of Oregon, apparently their hospitals correlate with the hospitals in Idaho, so they don't. They were actually the ones who refused my DNC when the doctor called to see if the OB would approve. The one in Oregon declined it. And I'm doing a little bit better. I got another nap. I'm still pale as hell. But I got this one. Hi. Thanks, everybody. Sorry for all the stress.
And she's still apologizing for having to go through all these things because folks were worried about her. So the border general area between the two states, they adopt some of those very conservative, ridiculous laws that are over in Idaho as well, to make sure people have no access and no rights. Here's what happened to Carmen Abroadster. She's 35 years old, and where she lives is 20 miles west of Boise. She's a mother of one already, and she was 6 weeks pregnant when she began miscarrying on December 8th. She said it took 8 days before she was given any medicine to manage her pain. 8 days. And to expel embryonic tissue, and several more days for the miscarriage to end. In a series of videos, along with medical records, photos, and videos shared with ABC News, she said that despite bleeding heavily and suffering intense cramps, she was denied a dilation and curettage, or DNC, which removes tissue from inside the uterus. Multiple times she was denied that as she's going through 2.5 weeks or almost 3 weeks of a miscarriage. Because DNC, in case you guys don't know, is a part of a process that when abortion is conducted, that's the part they're like, well, we can't do that because that would seem like something else. And if we do that, then we'll totally be outside the violations of the law. OBGYNs told ABC News that to save the mother's life exception of these abortion bans, which Broadster may have qualified for in Idaho, is very vague and the language is unclear about what qualifies as a mother's life being in danger. Pay attention to this line. It's unclear about what qualifies as a mother's life being in danger, what the risk of death is, and how imminent death must be before a effing doctor can act. So you have to assess someone's maybe bleeding out in your hospital or in your office, and you go, is she really gonna die? Because if she's not, I'm gonna let her just bleed. And if she is, then I guess I'll do something because those laws that they just passed might come for me because that's what I should be concerned with, not my patient that's right in front of me. That's what's going on in this particular situation. That's what's gonna continue to go on in more and more of these states that think this is something they're supposed to be doing. And all the people that were complaining and hair was on fire and they're having convulsions over the Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade. I can't believe they'd do such a thing. You guys really think this is gonna happen to real people? It's happened consistently to real people. And how much do we care about it afterwards? About as much as we care about other folks and how these laws are killing people literally. But it's about life, Jackson. It's about life.
Well, the type of ricochet effects that come obviously from the reversal of Roe v. Wade on top of red state laws that put women into these types of situations really stem from a culture of shunning things to the side that make you uncomfortable. Because watching a video like that naturally, unless you're just like totally empty, which most people aren't, even people who can tend to sway on the side of negativity, most people have a decent amount of humanity in them. So if you're exposed to stuff like that, you're gonna feel uncomfortable. You're gonna be compelled to do some type of work about it. So when conservative lawmakers are in these different types of hearings and they're like, oh well, we didn't know that there were going to be these types of repercussions with women, but they were actually written into the laws like these will be your penalties and these will be your punishments if you get an abortion, if you go crossing state lines. What do they say? The cruelty is the point or something along those lines. Because ultimately the result is that people who don't have higher resources, who pretty much can just avoid situations like this, or at least the negative repercussions of situations like this, they can just push it to the side and not have to deal with it, which therefore gives them more power and resources and capital and what have you.
And then they can still pump this whole thing of how they're the moral group and look at how we limited people's rights. Until you actually understand that these are real folks and these are real situations that are happening and real lives in danger. I guess we just won't do anything about it. She has a young child. So what happens if this woman dies because we want to make sure that she's under the thumb of the government there in Idaho? Then a young child loses their mother. Do they care? It's all about, a family unit. Keep it together, unless we want to take away a mother's right and then let her die on someone's table. Or if that doctor doesn't let her die on the table, then we'll go ahead and punish that doctor. This is the United States of America, by the way. Think about if that makes any sense to you guys. Let's shift gears, go to this next story. This has been talked about a lot. Rivana also is very close to the advocacy work for this particular group of folks who, when they fly, these types of things happen. And I've been hearing about this too from many viewers, so I'm glad that Vice did this story on it. Let's watch.
Going to the airport can feel like a nightmare for just about anybody. But for Emily Ladow and millions of other people who use wheelchairs, the horror is real, with one indignity after another.
Thank you. You too. Every time I go through security, I'm essentially turned into a bit of a sideshow.
Female assist. Female assist.
And then they'll I'll go through this invasive pat-down process with everybody watching.
Am I able to lift your leg for you?
Yeah.
One particular airline passenger there was talking to Vice about the things she has to go through just to fly. I mean, the beginning part about this, just the embarrassing nature of being wheeled around and being connected as just a wheelchair, not really a human being, because we forget there's a person sitting there, someone is flying, she's going somewhere to visit family, friends, work, like anyone else, but this then becomes her character. So from her story, it seems like they see her as that more than anything else. Let's let them continue talking about the way that they go about.
And then what happens once you get to the gate?
When I finally get to the gate, I have to wait until a gate agent shows up.
Yeah, this one is foldable. I will let you.
No, this is not foldable.
It's not foldable, the chair?
No.
Oh, this is a Boeing. The door is small.
I know.
If we can feed it there or not.
When they get ready to board, they say, first we have to get the wheelchair on, as if I'm not actually a person. I'm just this big piece of inconvenient machinery that they have to get on the plane.
That must not feel good.
Nothing about flying ever feels good for me. I never feel quite so much like a burden as I do when I'm getting on an airplane.
So here's the thing, if we're looking to change maybe the way we go about this, just the first layer of this here about the humanity nature of someone trying to get on an airplane and they're in a wheelchair like this, I understand it can be overlooked. As I mentioned before, when folks that watch the show point out this problem, I said it's something I never even thought about. That's okay to admit because we live in our own worlds and our own bubbles. That's what humans are. It's when you have the opportunity to hear someone else's story, then that you go, I never considered that. Maybe something else should be done. It's weird how that's just a normal thought process, I think, for a lot of people, but there's pushback on that as if there's some kind of attack coming for change, for the better, for more people. Maybe this part will convince some folks to think, whatever, you're in a wheelchair, you're getting pushed around anyway. This is I think, one of the major problems that comes when folks fly. Let's watch this.
Because wheelchair users don't just entrust their lives to the airlines. They also have to hand over their custom-built medical equipment, which, in Ladau's case, costs upwards of $30,000.
Oh my God, it is broken.
Is it not the chair?
Oh no, that's supposed to be firmly on here and okay, all right. I'm going to try not to have a complete freak out right now. I have some duct tape.
The US Department of Transportation says last October, airlines were damaging an average of 35 wheelchairs and mobility scooters every day. Travelers with disabilities have repeatedly gone viral during busy travel times, sharing their experiences on TikTok.
I knew that this would happen to me eventually because it happens to friends of mine every day. You're essentially breaking our legs.
How many people have to go through this physical and emotional trauma before something changes?
Very much an overlooked problem. By the way, how about a comparison here with that? If you're traveling with your wheelchair that costs $30,000, and then it's broken, and there's this very, I don't know, I got a snippet of the reaction. Very nonchalant attitude of, I guess we'll have to tape it back together, as this person's freaking out over their mobility machine, being able to get them around. What if you're golfing? You're going off to some nice Florida golf resort, and you pack your expensive golf clubs and they get bent, broken, and tossed around in the travel. You lose your mind. And I think more people probably have some sympathy for these folks. But in this case, do we? And are things gonna change? By the way, as they point out there, in July of 21, according to Air Travel Consumer Report, there were 834 incidents of mishandled, quote unquote, wheelchairs and scooters for passengers transported by US airlines. That's an average of 28 a day. That's over just that 1 month. Almost 900, bro. It's insane. But lastly, the American Disabilities Act says that accessible transportation for wheelchairs is actually a civil right. They're already all over it. But are we following it? Let's see if airlines are doing that. This is the last video.
The Americans with Disabilities Act essentially says accessibility isn't just about convenience, it's a civil right. One of the many things the act requires is for buses, trains, and boats to be equally accessible to everybody, by providing things like ramps, lifts, or designated wheelchair spots. But what the ADA doesn't cover is airplanes.
Again, it doesn't have to be an angry conversation unless the pushback is, well, we're doing whatever we can. And we know people toss luggage and things like this around. There has to be some kind of knowledgeable approach to these types of things and equipment to make sure people can travel and not have their entire, who knows, year be destroyed over it. Your thoughts here, man?
Well, just in general, when it comes to things like this, whether it's airlines or anything else, efficiency makes for better business. It makes for just better logistics, faster travel. So even if you take like the humanity out of this and just look at it from a corporate perspective, it would be of the airlines' benefits to make not just the ports, but also their planes themselves more wheelchair accessible and just smoother. Because this isn't just something obviously that would impact these people's lives, these people's emotions, and again, them having to really be publicly humiliated and oftentimes hurt in the process.
Right.
But it slows down flights. It causes issues. It makes the job less full circle of being a TSA agent or whatever else, making the job where it's just all around a bad practice. So unfortunately, in society, when we do make changes, oftentimes we have to see people suffering before we even realize it, because I wasn't necessarily that privy to this either. But it definitely is not just an issue, but a very, very fixable one. Like this isn't something that is difficult, and it really wouldn't cost them that much money in the grand scheme of things. So
just paying attention to it, just moving on and doing it the right way. Think of how many complaints happen when people are flying. They lost my bags. This kid behind me is kicking my seat and crying. Oh man, what's that on my tray table? Things like that are always something people complain about, and it'll be something that maybe even gets talked about widely enough that something is done. This is serious, and it's someone's actual travel. So there always needs to be advocates, people who don't experience it that are part of it, especially since you don't see as the majority of people flying in a wheelchair or something like that. So more people that are actually there are the ones that have to make the noise to talk about this, or else it won't be picked up because of human nature. Again, it's not like an indictment on everyone else that doesn't get it. If you start seeing it, then you kind of get it. That's all there is to it. I mean, again, Jax, you said it and I said it too. I hadn't thought about this.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's go to this next story though, because what's not okay is apparently Newsmax. They're not okay. Let's watch.
Yeah, well, they got rid of One America. Now they got rid of Newsmax. Only Fox News is left as conservative leaning. And you have 22 liberal channels. Let me give you an example. Vice, which is a far left channel aimed at young millennials.
Yeah.
Pro Antifa, all of that stuff. They are on all of Directv. They have a tiny rating, just 20% of Newsmax's lowest rating, and they get a fee about what we were asking for. So it's a very clear example of political discrimination. That's why we're fighting back. President Trump has called for a boycott of AT&T and Directv. Even if you're not a subscriber of Directv, he says cancel your cell phones. Don Jr., as you know, just put out a tweet.
We can put that up on the screen, yeah. Right there.
Come on, bro. Don Jr., you cancel your AT&T subscription or Verizon or T-Mobile, whatever the hell you use. Do you think people are really gonna en masse start unsubscribing from it? You know how much a big of a pain in the ass that is? Whatever, bro. Anyway, this particular instance has Newsmax complaining about how they've now finally been dropped by Directv. We've been hearing this building up. OAN, he mentioned as well, was the other one that was dropped. There's details that they're not giving you as reasons why this happened, but it's about these conservative leaning networks. I thought Fox News was fair and balanced. They keep admitting that they're not, but I'm just saying. Here's the details of what's going on here. The Directv statement pointed this out. On multiple occasions, we made it clear to Newsmax, this is the reality, that we wanted to continue to offer the network, but ultimately Newsmax's demands for rate increases would have led to significantly higher costs that we would have had to pass on to our broad customer base, people who don't watch your effing channel. Now, by the way, we hear these types of things from companies a lot where they're like, yo, if we do this, then we're gonna have to pass it on to the viewers and the customers. They don't necessarily have to pass things along. They kind of just don't want to take on the extra burden of the fees that you're asking for your channel, which we'll see there's other reasons that you're not on these anymore. But they're claiming they're being censored. There's headlines coming all over the place from Newsmax. Of course, they have the right to say this if they want. It's a matter of whether or not you want to look into it and see if they've been canceled for censorship. Because that's how that whole thing's work. But on top of that, this is where I think this leads into how politicians need this type of network, if you would, as that one particular guy said, right-leaning networks in order to continue to work the way that they do. Because there was 40 congressional Republicans signed this letter calling for Directv to reverse this decision and let Newsmax back on. So they sent this to these heads of this company. It's recently been revealed that congressional Democrats in the White House coordinated closely with private companies to deplatform, demonetize, or otherwise limit the reach of viewpoints they oppose and classify them as misinformation. Let's go to some of that misinformation. First off, there's all these signatures of these idiots, the Elise Stefanik's, the Paul Gosars, the Byron Downs, of course. They do this and they're looking for that attention. Fine, they got it. Here's the guy that maybe they're trying to follow in behind because he truthed this. Wow, he's surprised. AT&T DirecTV removes Newsmax from its channel lineup. This disgusting move comes after deplatforming OAN last year. Pause. Let's go to this for a second because I looked up. I said, oh yeah, OAN Newsmax. I remember OAN was having issues. Checked out this article from The Verge that pointed out the negotiations with OAN has been a typical business as usual carriage negotiation, like those that routinely happen between content distributors and content providers. This is with Verizon, who's the last carrier to drop OAN, not Newsmax. Newsmax is the one that's happening now with DirecTV. But they said that those were focused on economics and there always are. But OAN failed to agree to fair terms. So Verizon said, we can't do this anymore. Sounds like a bad business thing that happened and it broke down. Business contract negotiations broke down, it happens all the time. But lastly, there's this. OAN was also up on all these things about COVID conspiracies and also with the Dominion voting machine stuff with that multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. You know who doesn't want to deal with multi-billion-dollar lawsuits? Companies that would like to just show TV and channels. It's the same thing that's going on with Newsmax. It's weird how those things were left out, especially from Donald Trump's truth that was going down. Your thoughts on this, man? I don't know if who even has cable? Like I'm one of those people who does because I watch sports all the time. But I guess they're trying to appeal to the old folks.
Well, I mean, at this point, like whenever I move apartments, I don't even bother, other than like the Wi-Fi, I don't even bother with hooking up the cable because I don't use it. Like so. But outside of that, it always cracks me up how, people in these spheres, the far right especially, which is basically everything Republican in the country at this point, they only raise a fuss and make these types of moves, obviously, when they're personally involved or when there's personal damage to them. Otherwise, it's, you're being woke, you're not letting the market do its thing, and obviously you need more personal responsibility because you're just but when it's them, even when they deserve it, which usually they do, which is why, what's that other platform, Rumble? That's where like all the people who get kicked off of all the platforms go, so they can go like yell and scream about how much women are the devil to a bunch of guys, like which is basically Rumble. So it's like that. Those are the platforms that'll let y'all do whatever you want to do, no matter what. But it's just a bunch of weird dudes on there. So but these are the alpha chuds. It's crazy.
You know who doesn't have multi-million-dollar deals with DirecTV, Verizon, and all that? I mean, maybe I'm not in the business side, but I know TYT always has to be this independent media since the beginning. And of course, and it's understood. We understand there's certain things that we say and do that with these huge corporations don't want to have associated with them. Okay. We built it from this point. That's why we're not running around with multi-million-dollar mansions and 3 of them in Miami and another one in New York and the 4th one out here in Los Angeles, because it's normal folks just talking about normal things. And then when you don't get on these networks, we can be not happy about it, but then to go like, you guys need to drop your Verizon and drop your DirecTV and all that, nobody's gonna do that. I don't know, man. These boycotts never work. And I'll give you an example from the left. Yo, who's still eating Chick-fil-A? That ain't work either.
Right.
This is probably my favorite story of the day. I'm gonna go ahead and piss a few of you guys off. Maybe you may even be angry at me for the rest of the day, but you're gonna eventually agree. Because this little girl is looking to investigate. Did Santa really come into her house last Christmas? Let's watch.
Cumberland, Rhode Island Police Chief Matt Benson was surprised when a package arrived just after Christmas. Inside was a letter from a 10-year-old girl telling them she took a sample of a cookie and carrots that she left for Santa and the reindeer and was wondering if
What is this, Verizon? AT&T? Directv, we've been deplatformed. Sorry guys, we're back. We only have a few minutes left, but this is my favorite story. I wanna make sure we do this though. Hi, yes, it's me. So anyway, there's this little girl out in the middle of nowhere in Rhode Island, and she's upset. She's trying to figure out whether or not Santa showed up at her house. Let's watch this video really fast.
Cumberland, Rhode Island Police Chief Matt Benson was surprised when a package arrived just after Christmas. Inside was a letter from a 10-year-old girl telling them she took a sample of a cookie and carrots that she left for Santa and the reindeer and was wondering if they could take a sample of the DNA and see if Santa was real. Her name was redacted by the police because they hadn't reached out to the family yet. The investigation is ongoing.
Surveillance image of clearly a reindeer in that vicinity that night. We do have information of an individual that was observed in the area matching the description of what people would consider would be Santa Claus. We've tracked that individual down and we're hoping to interview him maybe this week or next.
Looking to interview Santa, maybe a couple of reindeer. This little girl, 10-year-old name. 10-year-old girl, by the way, they did release her name now because they talked to her parents. Her name is Scarlett. And she sent in a cookie and a few carrots to make sure that Santa and his reindeer really showed up at her house. There she is with the look on her face of, you guys are BSing me and I'm about to figure this whole thing out. The problem I have with this, by the way, she loves science. Her parents said that she's looking to DNA evidence because she saw how their dogs got the DNA tests done. And she loves how this whole thing works. But I was hoping that they would be honest with this kid. If you guys are watching with children that you're lying to on a regular basis every Christmas, earmuffs, as they say. So here's a close look at the evidence that she sent to them, that disgusting dried out carrot and a half-eaten cookie by someone that was broken into her house, apparently. This is what the police said after they examined that data. This is what annoyed me. While our laboratory was able to apply the most current and technologically advanced methods to solve this case, we aren't able to definitively confirm or refute the presence of Santa at your home. Come on, bro. We all agree that something magical may be at play, so we encourage you to remain curious and look forward to seeing your application to the Rhode Island Department of State Health Laboratories someday in the future, so you might be able to help us solve this case and others. This turned from first to continue lying to this kid about whether or not Santa showed up at her house and a couple of reindeer, to then saying, hey, you want to apply for a job since you're so smart? If she's so smart, stop lying to her. If she applies at your organization, are you gonna lie to her then too? You're gonna lie about her pay. They're liars. Listen, Santa Claus did not show up at your house, Scarlett. I know you're not watching, so I can say that definitively. Reindeer didn't show up at your house. These folks, these authorities that you sent this DNA evidence to, like a very responsible, young, smart human being, you know what they did? They lied to you too. And they said something magical may be happening. You know what's magical that's happening? These lies. They continue over and over and over again. Yo, I told my producers yesterday that I never believed in Santa Claus because it's ridiculous. And I'm never telling my kid to believe in Santa Claus because it's ridiculous. And look, we got government agencies, officials. She's never gonna trust the police again, Jackson.
No, I guess from that perspective, we're setting her up for failure. But from another perspective, I thought this was hilarious. And first the chat was cracking me up because they were saying this is a reindeer hit job, or Santa Claus, we was about to give out his identity, so they came and canceled us. And then somebody said this is what happened when this is what happens when you let your kids read. We got man. But I guess I gotta give her some points because she takes initiative from her curiosity. And she goes forward with things. So you got to you got to let her know what's up with that. That's great.
Isn't that embarrassing? You're the adult. This kid comes with initiative, with smarts, with evidence. She saved the cookie that her dad took a bite of, her mother or uncle or whoever broke into the house. And she says, this is the cookie, bro. I need answers. Don't give her answers. Listen. Jackson, were you lied to as a child about Santa Claus like everyone else was?
Yes. For a little bit. And I figured I ended up, I don't even remember how I figured out, but I wasn't like, I think after like maybe like 5 or 6, I knew Santa wasn't real.
Hey kids out there, you should figure it out that when someone comes to your door and knocks and your parents go, who's there? Or then if you have a parent who has guns in their house, it's like, who's at my porch? This is my castle doctrine law, the right to shoot anybody who shows up. But then come Christmas time, some stranger decides to slide down your chimney, break through a couple windows, and eat your food.
Get high off sugar and dairy all night.
Suddenly, these very protective parents are wide open to intruders. That's your first signal, kids. Just saying, in case you don't want, and by the way, they do this, the elf on the shelf is the next thing. We did stories about that. The whole point of this is to scare your children into behaving. Sorry, you guys, like I said, you're not gonna agree with me on this because I'm like one of 5 people who think But if you're doing all these different things to scare your children into behaving for the entire rest of the year, try something else. Appeal to them, speak to the humans that they are, rather than going, there's this stranger that's gonna hold back some gifts from you on Christmas if you're not a good kid in April. Let's try something different. That's it's 2023 now, yo. These kids they're searching stuff up at 5 years old on iPads and stuff now.
It's the religion of the Christmas spirit. That's basically what it is.
It's doomed to end.
And the coal in your sack is the replacement of burning in hell for all eternity. It's just it's baby steps until you get to there,
I need y'all's comments. I'm the bad guy, I understand. So tell me why I'm wrong. We have like a minute left. Let's see what people are talking about. Maybe this is, I'm gonna assume this is what it's talking. This is the wheelchair story. We'll talk about that. That's actually way more important. It's really fast on Twitch. Mike Boy from Mayor. I'm glad you guys are talking about this because it is very important. Thanks for doing this story about the wheelchair. Yes, because this is what's happening to so many people that we're not seeing. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to do so. More on that. Really Snarky Dragon. This is again on Twitch. Woot woot. Thank you, JR. Though the broken chairs are only half the problem, we don't have access to the bathroom on the flight. Hadn't thought about that either. First on, last off. And if our chairs are broken at the destination, we still can't relieve ourselves even more. But I thought about that too. They're probably last coming off because there's they need assistance in getting on and off. What if there's a connecting flight? Because I had to deal with that over the break as well. What if there's people that say, hey, we're a little bit late. If you have to get a connecting flight, everyone please let the connecting flight folks off first. What if that person needs the accessibility, the wheelchairs, right? They're getting off last anyway. They're just another traveler, you guys. So a little bit more. Is anybody mad about Santa yet? Here it is. Woody Invincible. My sister and I knew Santa wasn't real, but we pretended he was for a while to get the extra present before we heard about St. Nicholas, though.
Brilliant.
Is that a different guy?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Is St. Nicholas different than Santa Claus? I thought it was the same guy.
He has his nickname, you know.
Yeah, but they said then she discovered about Saint Nick. I don't know, maybe they did it differently in the house. But the elf on the shelf is the latest. It's the latest lie that's told. Another one, Franklin Sharp Splicer 6 says, I can save time. The DNA I sent of Santa, he's black and he's cool. And giving gifts is a soul rule. He plays jazz and always has the ability to cut the rug. If you meet him, just greet him and you'll get a cool hug. Oh, this is a nice poem written, but it's more truth to it than what they gave her from the authorities. Last one here from Twitch from Dinger Dragon says, whenever the mother's life is in danger, this is again about this woman who had the miscarriage and they literally didn't give a damn. It's required by Jewish law to save the mother, not the fetus that might effing die from a stiff breeze. There's a couple different words in there. I had to jump around there. But true, it's a matter of whether or not we're gonna continue to follow this type of lead from these politicians who literally don't care about their constituents. They care about their political careers. It's just the way this is. Up next, we got John Idaho with the Damage Report. Thank you, Jackson, for being on here with us on another Jackson & Jackson Thursday. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the Knicks game tomorrow.
I'll have to.
Also, thank you guys for being here as well. Again, John's got Miranda Scholl on, friend of the show. Love seeing Miranda on. Go check them out on the Damage Report. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a Friday. We're already at the end of the week. See you guys then.